Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had so many questions. How do I record an episode? Where do I find background music? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? Where do I find advertisers? The answer to every one of those questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing, and monetizing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and 100% ridiculously easy to use. Let me tell y'all. Everybody keeps asking me, what do I do to podcast? I'm telling you, the answer is Anchor. They created my RSS feed. They gave me my first 2 sponsors that you're now hearing on this podcast. I want you to know that I believe in Anchor. I've grown with this platform since February, and I'm going to continuously grow with this platform. So if you always wanted to start a podcast, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Walk by Faith show. This is the 18th episode, but today we're going to do something a little different. We're opening up a segment called the Pretty Plus Perspective, where we have a guest and we just talk about recent events, and I'd like to call them hot topics. Now, I did bring a guest that you all have heard. He is a political consultant. He's my friend, none other than Mr. Jarrell Brandon. He is a political consultant, and last time I had him on the show, everybody loved him. I had so many comments and just like, hey, bring him back. I learned so much about policy and government. I was just like, in today's climate, we always need a little pick-me-up on what's happening politically, especially when we have these midterm elections coming up in November. So I also wanted to just let you know, with podcasting, you have to be on you have to understand that you're always learning. I know for myself, I'm an amateur podcaster. My guests sometimes do get busy, and maybe I did schedule for someone to be on this Wednesday, but some things just come up. So I would suggest anybody that has a podcast where they have guests come in, that they always have somebody that they can call on, not last minute, but just to fill in so that you can remain consistent and produce content weekly or however you do produce content. So, Jarrell, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate the positive feedback. And I'm appreciative that you actually invited me back again and felt that I was, I'll say worthy enough to your listeners to just be invited back. So thank y'all.
You're welcome. Literally, my friend Symphony, she said, man, I never knew this much about policy and government, and he was just really inspiring. I was like, you know what? I got to have Jarrell on again. So he may come on here monthly or every 2 months, which have you. I just want him to be able to come in and bring his perspective. So the topics that we're going to cover today is going to be the royal wedding. I know a lot of people love that wedding. They woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning U.S. time to watch it. We're going to be talking about tips for college students during the summer. What should college students or students in high school be preparing for in this time? Because it's a lot of time for fun, but we must recognize there's a lot of work to be done in our communities, and that means we can't just always have fun. We do need to prioritize things so that we can be successful. We're going to talk about the next black woman who is a governor, and I'm not going to spill the beans. Also, there was a video that just went viral in New Jersey where a young lady was, I think, 20 years old. She was drinking underage, but she was beaten up by police on this beach. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I have to talk about it. And also the recent events of the NFL and how, our president has definitely made a stance that if you choose to take a knee, you will not be able to, you will get fined, and that's just not allowed. You don't need to be on the football taking a knee. So on that note, Jarrell, I guess we'll start with the royal wedding. And I just want to say it was a lot of Black culture and presence at this royal wedding. It was remarkable. So what was your take on it? Let's just, have a little powwow, as you say.
Okay, so I'll admit two things. I'll admit I didn't tune in when the wedding initially was on. I know I was up that morning. My mom actually was up, and she was watching it, but I had something to do that day. I was up for it, but I didn't tune in. But I did tune in afterwards. I watched it on YouTube, and I will say, at one point, I sat back and I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch this a little bit, see if I can get into it, just to see, what everybody was talking about. And then after a while, having already heard about the Black parts of the wedding, I kind of started just fast forwarding to the Black part. So the young man who was the celloist, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that sermon. I thought the fact that Dr. Martin Luther King, an American hero, was quoted in the United Kingdom, and right in the heart of the monarchy's wedding. A Black man at that. So that was a good sermon. And I actually liked the choir. So like I said, I fast forwarded to all the Black parts, like the Black parts of this wedding. But I think it was a fairy tale type of story for many. I do think that a lot of young girls will look up to it. A lot of grown women, I think, just looked up to the experience. I remember this past week I saw a meme on Instagram that talked about how Taraji P. Henson just got engaged at like 40-something. Meghan Markle just got married to and became a real life princess at like 36, I think, or something like that. And at the last sentence was saying that, like, sis, it's okay, worry about your career and building yourself up and loving yourself. You'll find, that one soon enough, or something like that. So just like thinking about, what it meant to a lot of people, I think it was good to see. And then on top of that, her using the platform she has now to just promote Blackness, that was amazing. So they can get 2 claps, definitely.
Yes, I agree with you completely. I think it's a beautiful thing that now America and now the United Kingdom have some type of connection. Right? And then it's a girl of color. I consider her a Black girl, but a lot of people, it's like when you get mixed, she's half Black, half white, what have you, a lot of people just get super political. So I'm just going to say she's a woman of color. She's a beautiful being. Her wedding was amazing. I thought to myself, I'm just like, wow, I watched the Cinderella that was the Black Cinderella. You know what I'm talking about with, it wasn't, what's her name? Not Monique,
Brandy.
What's her name? Brandy. Yes, that was my Cinderella that I watched. And I was like, you know what, real life, this is the Cinderella that I remember watching. And one thing that Reverend Curry stated in his sermon, he was just like, one, power to change the world. If you don't believe me, well, there were some old slaves in America, antebellum South, who explained the dynamic power in love and why it has the power to transform. British royalty will have a new perspective when people of color will at least have a voice. So that's what I feel. I feel like people of color now will have a voice. Somebody's there speaking. Someone's at the table. Who was at the table prior to this British monarchy? Like, who was at the table that was Black or of color? No one. So now you have this beautiful princess, this beautiful queen that's going to be there, and she's at least going to have some perspective for the people that maybe have been looked over and not have been thought about. So I just thought it was beautiful from a love, and it was love that did it. It was love that did it. It wasn't money. It wasn't power. It was actual love that bridged that gap. So I think it goes back to, like, that point about, you know, we just need more love in this world. And you will be surprised how much more we can start to transform each other with just the power of love. So I definitely enjoyed it. I loved the soloist. I loved just the choir stand by me. I mean, it was soulful. I was like, God, no, this whole wedding is like soulful, but it's royal soul. It's a royal soul to it.
It was a new feeling to watching something like that, because, like, you know, when Princess Diana and Prince Charles got married, I don't know how old I was, or even if I was born, but, like, I've seen photos and videos of the wedding and stuff like that, like, in different documentaries. But even from those little snippets, you could tell that, like, it's still just like this dryness to it. Like, even his older brother, I think, who was it? I don't know his name, whatever. But, you know, even that wedding, you know, you see the videos, and even, you know, that wasn't so long ago, but it was still just this dryness to it, where this wedding had some upbeatness to it. I'll go a step further and say it had some flavor, some color in it, because it did, and it went well. And I'll just add two other points to something else you mentioned, Jasmine, as you were talking. First one, so thinking about it politically, in the sense of, like you said, like, you know, when you talk about someone who's mixed, like, you know, the same thing happened with Barack Obama. It's like, you know, is he black enough, or is he, you know, because he's mixed? The one thing in today's society you have to keep in mind, even with that politicalness, is, like, with Meghan Markle, you know, there is a little ambiguity there to an extent, because I remember when I first saw her on Suits, the first time I saw her, I was like, oh, okay, she's mixed, but she could pass as if she's a white woman, but you could really tell she's mixed. And I guess maybe as a person, as a black man myself, like, you kind of have that fifth sense. So it's just like, oh, I could tell she's black, but you can tell. But again, in this modern era, like, they're going to look her up if they're interested in it, and they're going to see, oh, well, she does have a white father, but she also has a black mother. So, you know, I get the politicalness of it, but we also have to look at the, you know, the bigger picture and the longer story to people, and, you know, who they are. And one of them is the fact that she has a black mother. So she may appear white on the outside, but a little research into her, they're going to quickly see that she's of color, and that could potentially, you know, change the way she's viewed in society. And, you know, like you said, like, now that she has this platform, who else was at the table before? You know, she shows that she's willing to use that platform in a positive manner. And then the last point that I'll mention, just and keeping up with, like, or trying to end it on a positive note and talk about, like, just the uplifting of black excellence. She may have a child someday, and that child may come out brown skin, and it's just like the first brown skin member of the royal family. And, like, again, that the potential of that happening could just be another, like, black excellence glow up moment. So it's beautiful to see, you know, the story just blossom.
Yes, I agree completely. And I think if we get nothing else, love wins, and love is able to transform. So now to our next topic, which is tips for college students or high school students. What should you be doing this summer? You have about 8 to 10 weeks of fun ahead of you, a lot of summer heat, as well as music, the potential to party. But it's just like, what should you really be doing? And I know, Jarrell, you're real, can add a lot of flavor to this, because, you know, you're real amped about, like, HBCUs and, like, making sure people just know what they should be doing as they prepare for school. The first thing that I would say is everybody during the summer tries to get a summer job, which is a beautiful thing. Ain't nobody trying to stop y'all from getting your coins. But I would say make sure that you save it. Save your money. You can use apps like Digit, where it takes a little bit of cents every day from your account just to put it in a secondary account if you are having a problem, like, with saving in a savings account, period. That way, when you go back to school, you ain't got to worry about being hungry. Maybe you got an emergency that comes up. You can pay for it. You got books. You need to pay for some rent. Maybe your mom or your dad or your family doesn't have it. Well, the work you put in this summer can help you for the year. And it's just like, as college students, you don't need that much, but you'll remember, oh, I went and bought some J's, or I bought like this really expensive bag or a purse. But it's just like, hey, like you could have used that money and actually helped you during the school year when you actually needed it more. So, you know, you can add some flavor to this too, but y'all don't be going out here and just blowing all your summer money just to be looking fly, because you only going to be fly for 10 weeks and you're going to be back in school looking a hot mess because you need some money.
I agree. So to the college kids listening, I'm gonna give y'all a lot of knowledge in a little bit of short amount of time. So I need y'all to pay attention, all right? So some of the work that I actually do is working with young adults. In between, like, doing political work, I've worked for a nonprofit in New York for, you know, a number of years. And the work I've done there has been as a college advisor and also overseeing the summer youth program. And I will give you, like I said, my personal story in terms of, you know, how I did finances and like what realistically as a young adult still, like what it is you should really be doing. So freshman year, it was like I had a job before I left for school. And I had, you know, I saved up some money, but after a while I started calling home. Like it was like, hey, man, I need, you know, $20 to get me through the week, or, you know, some money, blah, blah, until like you could, you know, send me my, you know, monthly allowance, I'll say. That summer I came home, I worked again, and I was making good money. I was working at an accounting firm in New York City, so making good money. It was the first time I had seen a $1,000 paycheck, and I was just like falling on it like that summer. The one thing I always made sure I did was I had a Metro card to get back and forth to work so that, you know, I at least had the opportunity to make some more money. So being realistic, you know, I know everybody may not save their money like they should. There are some things that even if you are going to be blowing your money, that you should still do responsibly. And it's just making sure that you have, you know, transportation fare to get back and forth to and from work. If you can't do anything else, if you don't have money for lunch, you at least know I can get back and forth to work for the next 2 weeks or the next, you know, whatever week that it takes you to get paid again, so you put some money in your pocket. So that's just real knowledge there. But we're hoping that you actually save. So sophomore year, I learned a little bit more from freshman year. And like I said, I took some more of the money that I was making over the summer and I brought that into maybe sophomore year. So I didn't have to call it home as much to my mom to ask for money. Again, that summer, I went back to the accounting firm. I was making a little bit more money now. So I'm able to, you know, again, make sure I had, you know, a car fare to get back and forth to work. And then I was also able to save a little bit more. And on top of that, in junior year, I actually got two on-campus jobs. So that actually put some more money in my pocket. And coupled with the savings that I had, I barely called home junior year because, you know, I was sustaining myself. And then senior year, you know, I was straight, like, because I had taken the knowledge that I had from freshman, sophomore, and junior year and kind of saved a little bit more. And then again, on-campus jobs, you know, to, you know, keep myself sustained. And then on top of that, I found a little loophole, in terms of the job that I had, back in, my freshman year. I was able to still claim unemployment from it. So I actually put the unemployment claim in and was collecting unemployment while in school. And that was, you know, additional money coming in after a while. So, you know, that's a pivot of advice. Depending on the type of job that you have, you know, while you're in school, you could potentially claim unemployment for it. So look into that. In New York State, you have to have worked over 2 consecutive quarters to be eligible. But if you know that's the case and you know that you are, you know, fitting the criteria, I say put in a claim for it. Your taxes are going to it in the first place. And then now as an adult, like thinking about the fact that, you know, I have student loans to pay off, just knowledge that I've gotten now. I tell, you know, the college students that I work with, try to find a summer job and save, you know, some of that money. If you can, you know, find a job and you are able to, you know, you're making a nice pretty penny in the summer, potentially think about paying on some of the interest on your student loans so that you can help keep that principal down as low as possible. You really got to start thinking about the sacrifices that you have to make in order to actually just make it out here in this world. And sometimes those sacrifices come, 2 and 3 years in advance, and you don't really start seeing or reaping the benefits, of it. So you're about 25, maybe 26, 27. But knowing what I know now, certain ways I would have moved a little differently. I'm grateful for the lesson. So, there's that. But if there's knowledge out there and, you can put yourself in touch with someone who has knowledge, take it. And the knowledge is save some of your money that you're making over the summer. Potentially buy yourself something nice because you should reward yourself for the hard work, but be mindful of the spending so that you can, have funds for when when you get back to campus. Because, there were nights where it was just like, all right, I'm going to call home because I'm really hungry and I need to eat. So, and I'm pretty sure there's been plenty of other college students in that same position. So I honestly, like Jasmine said, save your money, just be mindful of your spending over the summer so that you're thinking about the long term and not the short term.
Yes, Jarrell. So basically, y'all, to summarize, he said by his first summer, he was spending, and by his last summer, he never even had to call home. So y'all take some of what Jarrell is saying and, really apply it to your life. Because it's cool now, but you really want to think long term. And that's strategically the way we're going to move forward in our society if we think smarter and not harder. And the next thing is that you should take time and update your business profiles, update your resume, update your LinkedIn. If you're in computer science, do a GitHub coding project. If you're into branding, commercialism, start doing things and preparing yourself. Read a book. There are so many free resources, and you should just take one day out of the week or a couple hours out of the week and just get up on that knowledge because you don't have classes to interfere with it. And I think that's really important. So that's another key to success, y'all. Just read up on your business profile and just gaining that extra knowledge. Jarrell, you got anything you want to add to that piece?
Apply to scholarships. That's the other thing I'd add.
Yeah. That's the next one. That's the next one, which is apply and search for scholarships. During the summer, you got a lot more time. So go ahead and either list out all the scholarships you want to apply for or go ahead and start the essay now. And Jarrell, I know you can add on that, but that's definitely point number 3.
No, I think you said it right. It's free money. Get it. I remember one time, this is high school though, but it was just I wanted to buy a new pair of sneakers. And I was just I could work some more hours to get this money, or I saw scholarships for high school students. And the winning prize, the winner got $250, as a part of the grand prize. So I was like, all right, I want these sneakers. I wrote an essay for it. I won. I got $250 and I was able to buy my sneakers. Plus, along with that, I, got recognized at City Hall. I got to be police commissioner for a day. So, again, it's free money. You want to put it realistically towards your education. But keeping in mind, again, sacrifices, keeping in mind thinking long term. You may just need additional scholarship money just to have to live off of. If you're living off campus, if you're living on campus, you just may need to have some extra money in your pocket. Scholarships can realistically do that. Because as long as you're eligible for the scholarship, even if they send it directly to your school and, you get enough scholarships to where you're getting a refund check back, that's still the money that you have to live off of. So definitely just apply to as many scholarships as you can.
Yes, and that brings me to my next point, which is just plan out what you want from college. What's the worst thing that can happen? If you actually set out your goals, you write them down. I want to have better study habits. I want to be able to, schedule time with my professors weekly to make sure that, I'm on point. Or whether it be more organizational skills or productivity or time management or study habits. Google Calendar is my life, and I really adapted that while I was in school, and it just helped me to be more organized. So it's just that's another thing. Just plan out what you want from college, because college don't keep taking your money, and y'all can just keep giving y'all money to college, but you want to have an end goal. Another point Oh, you want to add something, Jarrell?
No, I was gonna say I agree. Couple of shameless plug anyway. So one of my other organizations that I'm a part of is I'm a board member for an HBCU advocacy organization called the HBCU Hub. You can check us out on all social medias. But some of the work that we're looking to start doing is, making sure that we're able to bring awareness to New York City high school students about HBCUs. But then also, how can, we as an organization and the connections that we have bring more mentorship opportunities to college students who, are potentially still first generation college students themselves, and just learning from, the different things that we learned from going to college. I didn't go to an HBCU, but I did go to college, and, there's certain, things about that college lifestyle, about no matter where you go, that you're going to experience and that you should be prepared for. So as Jasmine said, thinking about, what college is. College is they're non-for-profits, but they're a business at the end of the day. And they realistically don't make a lot of guarantees. They don't guarantee you're going to graduate. They don't guarantee that you're going to have a good time. They don't guarantee that you're actually going to learn, that you're going to have job opportunities afterwards. They don't realistically guarantee you any of that. They provide, for the most part, the opportunity for those things to happen, but a guarantee, nah. So with that being said, you really have to think about, what you can take from it. Especially keep in mind that you're paying for it. So you should be able to get all that you realistically, your dollar's worth from it. And that means setting up a plan. That means, connecting with alumni, going after internships, working on campus, making connections with professors, trying new things, being a part of different clubs and activities you never thought about before. So I would honestly say, go into each new year, looking to do something a little different than you did the last year. That would be it.
Okay, I agree. Another thing is, if you're a high school student or you're about to graduate, just make sure that you know what type of environment you want, right? Whether you want the Baychella experience like you saw with Beyonce, or if you want that diverse, you're a person of color, you're Black or whatever, and you want to go to a school with all types of, different backgrounds, different people, because you want that challenge, because realistically, when we come out into the world, it's not going to be like this Wakanda, right? It's going to be you in the midst of all these different people, and you may be the only person in the room. So you have to decide for yourself what type of environment you want. I know for me, I wanted that Wakanda. I wanted that Baychella experience. That's where I was from. That's what I knew. But, coming into the real world, it's just okay, I now have such a confidence about myself that my HBCU definitely prepared me for. On another note, I will say that you just need to write it down. A lot of times you know what you kind of want out of college, but all schools are party schools. Don't worry about that, or that myth. And I also say that you need to get a mentor and ask tons of questions. If you know you want to go to a PWI, find a mentor that has went to that type of school. They can tell you the environment, how to get around, or an alumni. It's so simple to network nowadays. You just literally put a hashtag in, Google it. You can find someone in your area that is willing to help you.
Absolutely.
I'd also say for HBCU, all you got to do is just look it up, ask questions. It's really as simple, y'all, as just asking questions, and a closed mouth does not get fed. So I would just encourage each of you all to just continue to ask questions and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to prepare yourself for the next school year.
Yep. I'm going to just go, yep.
Exactly. And the last thing is to have fun. This is the summer. Y'all, we only get to be real kids. I think in college I was a kid. I was like, dang, a 3-day weekend for work, that's my vacation. Or I got to take a vacation. I really enjoy having summer breaks and winter breaks and, spring breaks. Guys, cherish those moments. Have fun. When you're on internships, build those relationships with people. I have friends in Texas. I got friends in Arkansas. I got friends in New York. I got friends in South Carolina, North Carolina. I got some friends in Africa. It's only because, we all came and we're in these different places, and it's just like, don't lose contact with them, like social media, like a pic, hey, how you doing? Like, keep that relationship going, and then just keep vibing. Like, I love college. I feel like I'm actually, to myself, actually starting to miss it. I've only been out of school a year. I can honestly say I actually miss it. I did not miss it before, but I would just definitely say, like, y'all, these were the tips. Budget, take time to update your business profiles, plan out what you want from college, make sure that you know the type of experience you want, get a mentor, and also apply for scholarships. And then just have fun and make friends. Y'all enjoy it. Live y'all best life this summer. I love to see y'all pictures. Enjoy it. Live your best life for me, because, you know, I can't live it right now. I'm a whole adult. I want to live my best life, but time is living for me right now.
Everything Jasmine just said is fairly accurate. For the high school students, listen, there's tons of programs out there for students from New York City looking to go to college. BronxWorks has a college office, another shameless plug. They're one of the largest nonprofits in the Bronx. They have a college office. They have a phenomenal staff there. Check them out. Like I said, my organization, the HBCU Hub, we're doing work with a lot of high school students. We actually, with St. Nick's Alliance in Brooklyn, we hosted a college tour back here during spring break, the first week of April, where we took a group of high school students to 6 different HBCUs and gave them the opportunity to tour college campuses. We had one young lady who was like, I don't know if I want to go away to school. By the end of the trip, she was like, no, I know I'm going away. I know I'm going away. I'm not sure where yet, but I know I'm going away. So everything Jasmine just said is truth, is knowledge, is pure fact. So, yeah, don't sleep on it. Ask a lot of questions, get connected with organizations, and let the world be your oyster.
Okay, and so we're just going to keep the show rolling right along. Next, we want to talk about Stacey Abrams. She just won the shot to be the first Black woman governor in America. And Black people, we can win in politics if we just have the right to vote. When we have the right to vote, we just need to go and do it. We just need to go and vote. And I'm gonna just let you take it away. I know this is your bread and your butter, Jarrell. So tell us how we can make sure that Stacey Abrams gets there, and how we can continue to push the agenda forward to see more people of color in the government.
So I will say, Jasmine, you asked about the hot topics. I was like, oh, this is great, because we'll get to talk about some real things that's going on right now. And then the funny thing about it is, this weekend, 2 people who I know who are heavily involved in politics hit me up about a couple of different things they have going on. So I'll make sure I drop that information as well for the listeners. But in terms of Stacey Abrams' potential to be the first African American woman to govern a state in the United States of America, I think will just be a phenomenal moment in and itself, because she will have been a first. But in the current climate we're in right now, I think we realistically need just a shining a light of something, because I swear right now, things are starting to seem real gloomy. I hate to be, pessimistic, because I remember after the election, I tried to, reassure people. I said, we're educated, we're knowledgeable. More people are waking up. I think, if we keep our eyes open and our ears, open as well, that we'll be able to weather the storm for the most part. It'll be bad, but we'll be able to weather it. And, we're approaching, about a year and a half now, into this administration, going into 2 years. And I mean, it just seems like it's gloomier and gloomier each day. I had to go fill up my gas tank earlier today, and I stopped, and I'm like, gas is $3.13. Now, gas typically goes up in the summertime, but $3.13, we have not seen that, I think, since 2008, 2009, when gas was upwards of $2.90. So even in those little aspects, keep in mind when gas is that much, the cost of goods also increases. Things like milk, things like cheese, those goods in the supermarket, they increase. Fruits and vegetables, the price of those increases, and that cost is then turned over and put to the customer. Think about, customers in black and brown neighborhoods who, as we talked about on the last show, that mom or that single parent in general who's, struggling to put food on the table, how much harder it will be for them to be able to just, accomplish that. So her winning, honestly, will just be a shining light for what we need right now. I would love to see it. How can people ensure that that pretty much happens? Contact the Georgia Democrat. It's the arm of the Democratic Party within the state of Georgia that would be able to best connect you with the campaign, to let you know of any outside organizations in your neighborhood that you can get involved with. You can potentially help with phone banking opportunities. So if you're really looking to engage, contact Georgia Democrats. I actually interviewed for a job there right after graduating college, and I was thinking about moving down to Atlanta. So contact them, and they can definitely put you in contact with either the campaign directly. You could potentially do some work with them, or you could also, be potentially put in touch with an outside organization that's looking to bring, to increase voter awareness, to, canvass, phone bank, mail letters, whatever it may be on behalf of Stacey Abrams. There's organizations I know across the country that are doing work. I'm pretty sure Planned Parenthood is, pretty much operating to some extent within the city of Atlanta. I can't think of all the organizations, but I know there are times that are looking to make sure that she is able to get out enough people to vote for her so that she can win, because it would be phenomenal. Two plugs with that. First one is a good friend of mine named Tasha Williams. She's actually one of the national organizers for the Women's March. And she's also been a former candidate for assembly member out in Queens. So shout out to all the work she's doing. But she just launched a new initiative called The Road to the White House. And it's an initiative that's looking to bring pretty much voter awareness, advocate to black and brown communities about what it means to vote, and not just vote for the big flashy elections like the presidential or potentially, in a midterm, but vote, up and down the ticket. Road to the White House, pretty much is talking about, getting us involved in the conversation, making sure that we have a voice at the table. So it's a new initiative. They actually are going to be out and about throughout the country this summer. They'll be in New Orleans at Essence Festival in July. They'll be at Detroit's Duce Palooza. They'll be at Made in America. And their concept is to go where the millennials, the youth are, the young professionals of color, make sure that they're at those events to be effective in registering people to vote. We were actually looking to do it here in New York last weekend at the New York City Duce Palooza. But just due to some logistics, it wasn't possible. But you just think about the potential that this initiative can have in, making sure that people, African Americans, Hispanics, Latinas, that they feel like they now they're taking part in what's going on. A lot of people didn't vote in 2016, and I understand, for a variety of reasons why folks didn't vote. But keeping in mind, when you don't take part in the process, your voice is left out of the process. As I explained, in the first episode, when you vote, that pretty much sends a signal to the powers that be, who's paying attention. So when you vote, the resources come with voting. The money into your community comes with voting. Talking about the issues comes with voting. Again, your elected official knows that you vote. They are going to be paying attention to you. You have a forum or a rally. If they can't be there, one of their senior staff members are there. So, there is power in voting. We were talking about it in the royal wedding. That was the message that was delivered, that, power comes with love. And you can have power, and it's from love which it comes from. You have to love life, and understanding what loving life means is that you take part in the process so that your life gets better, that your friends and your family's lives around you are better. And I guess that's why, that's the part of the work that I do, working in the community, wanting to work for organizations that are bettering the community, because at the end of the day, I love my community. I love, where I'm from. I love, being a black man and wanting to see, everybody black win. So that means that I have to be a part of the conversations. We have to be a part of the process. So if you're not registered to vote in the state of New York, in order to take part in the primaries coming up, you must register by June 1st. So that's this week. I think that's Thursday. So register to vote. In New York City, you can actually register online just go to nyc.gov. But the way New York City does it is they allow you to register online, and because the state laws haven't caught up, another reason to vote so that the state laws can catch up. Your paper ballot, your paper registration has to actually be filed in the state of New York. So what the city does is you do the online application, and they'll transfer it to the paper and submit it. And it's another way to get, people, more engaged in this modern society. So you live in New York City, make sure you register to vote by June 1st to participate in the primaries in the state of New York later this summer. The one thing I will say in this addition to that, not to get too far away from Stacey Abrams in that moment, is, and again, why it's important to vote, is New York State's entire state legislature is up for re-election this year. That's everyone from the governor down to any open assembly seats, including state senate seats. So right now we have the potential to change the tide. In New York State, we have the potential to change the tide in the state of Georgia, and that means we need everyone to come out and vote, and just be engaged in the conversation, be engaged in what's going on. Potentially figure out how you can petition for someone, how you can, get involved in organizations that are out there petitioning or phone banking. Another, someone I know, this young woman, she's an Asian woman. She's an assemblywoman from the Lower Manhattan, Chinatown, this area. And she's phenomenal, Yulene. I met her while working at Planned Parenthood, and her energy has been phenomenal. And she's another woman, running to stay in office. So she's up for re-election. And we are in a year of, women and women empowerment. And I think it would just be phenomenal to just keep pushing women to the top. Women of color who have, unique lived experiences, who can offer a different perspective, who can not only offer a different perspective, but be a role model to other young girls of color. We got to push them to the forefront. So get out there and vote. Stacey Abrams in Georgia, find other initiatives to get involved in that just make sure we have a seat at the table.
Yes, Jarrell, I completely agree. Yeah, you did. And another thing is, I found this website. It's called Turbo Vote. A shout out to my roommate. She told me about it. She said it makes The website's purpose is to make sure you always know when elections are happening and have the information you need to vote with confidence. So basically, TurboVote, you put your address in, it'll automatically have a downloadable link so that you can download the voter application. You send it to your local state, and then you get registered. Simple as that. It's a quick and easy form. Only step you have to do is print out the form and actually go to the place to mail it off. So again, it's 2 steps, but it doesn't require you waiting for somebody to do voter registration. It's voter registration at the hands of your device. So all you got to do is take a few easy steps. If you can download things so that you can make sure you get your Amazon packages, you can make sure that you can vote. So going to my next topic.
Hold on, really quickly. I got to make one. I'm sorry, Jasmine.
Yes. Go ahead.
So,
yes, go ahead.
I think I misstated that it's the road to the White House, but it's hood to the White House. I just in talking and realizing I think I said road, so it's hood to the White House. And again, it's making sure that us people of color have, a voice in elections, a voice in the political conversation. So check out Hood to the White House, HOOD to the White House. I promise you won't be disappointed.
And, I did reach out to her. I sent her a nice email. I'm going to resend her an email, but I do hope to bring her on the show. I thought she was an amazing woman when I heard her speak at our conference with the New York Urban League Young Professionals. It was the State of Young Black New York. I hope that I can get an interview. So, Jarrell, if you can put another plug in, connect me some kind of way, remind her, let her know I did email her. I'm trying to get her on the show.
I will reach out to Natasha and see how to make that connection, most certainly.
Thank you. Our next topic, hot topic that is, for all my football fans out there in the world. Oh, my goodness. The man in charge, he definitely set some standards that you can no longer take a knee on the football field, and if you do, you will need to pay a fine. From my understanding, the Jets coach said he'll pay the fine for any team or any member that chooses to, express their freedom of speech. But just the fact that this was made, it definitely takes me back a second because I already don't watch sports, but it's just like, all right, well, I still not going to watch sports. And then the second thing I wanted to read this, it's like a little meme that I saw, but it's a little long, but it's not too long. And it was just something I saw on Instagram, and it says, it was never about the anthem. It was never about the flag. It was never about the military. It was about Patrick Harmon, 50. It was about Philando Castile, 32. It was about Alton Sterling, 37. It was about Sandra Bland, 28. She's Prairie View A&M alum as well. I just want to throw that out there. It was about Anthony Hill, 27. It was about Samuel DeVos, 43. It was about Brendan Glenn, 29. It was about Freddie Gray, 25. It was about Natasha McKinney, 37. It was about Walter Scott, 50. It was about Christian Taylor, 19. It was about Michael Brown, 18. It was about Eric Garner, 43. It was about Akia Gurley, 28. I mean, the list goes on. And it was about due process of the law. It was about justice. It was never about the anthem, the flag, or the military. So I don't know what our president doing, but he's definitely not understanding what's happening. So Jarrell, hit us with that knowledge because, for me, I'm taking it back. I already don't care about sports, but I really don't care about sports now.
So I protested the NFL last year. I didn't watch. I'm not going to lie, it was hard. Like, I like watching sports, football and basketball. I played both in high school. So it was hard, honestly, not watching football last season. I'll admit I did keep up with some of the stats and would watch ESPN from time to time to catch highlights of games and stuff like that. And if it was on when I was out, I would, look at it a little bit. But for the most part, I did protest football last season. And one thing I thought about when that last season was potentially not watching football again, because the one thing that you had to keep in mind is you couldn't just protest for 1 year. You couldn't just protest for one season and we go back to, business as usual, because now we clearly see where they've made this rule that pretty much, hardcore puts it, if you're out on the field, you must stand. And then on top of that, in a way, they've also reaffirmed just the lies that were coming from, the president about this particular issue. And that's honestly ultimately my issue with it. Because I remember when you first mentioned about this subject, I said I had an interesting perspective on it, and I do. I have a perspective on it from the standpoint of, a working professional and going to work and, being at a job. But then I'm also conflicted on the other end because, like I said, the fact that it reaffirms, just that nonsense. Because on one hand, when you think about, like I said, the professional aspect of it is all jobs have rules and regulations. Now, this one might be a little dumb, but all jobs have rules and regulations. And the one thing that, I guess the compromise in the rule is that you don't have to be on the field any longer. Like before in the NFL, you had to be on the field for the national anthem. And then, people started protesting, so that became a thing. So now you can either be in the locker room, and if you choose to be in the locker room during the national anthem, that's your way of, not having to participate in standing for the national anthem. So my thing is, and, I tell this to students that I work with, this is something that I try to also live by in terms of being a professional is don't be too uncompromising at work. Don't be the unflexible person. Don't be the person who's unwilling to never stay late or come in early or, help out with something additional. Don't be that uncompromising person, but don't compromise yourself in terms of your moral values and who you are as a person just for your job and just for your paycheck. So for me, I can see to some extent both sides of it as well. Okay, well, if I'm an NFL player and I, don't want to come out on the field for the national anthem, I'm going to stay in the locker room and I'm going to let my protest be seen that way because that's now an option to me that wasn't previously available. And potentially I think if more people stayed in the locker room, that would start to show because, a part of the reason why they want the players out there is for television viewership. And if they can't pan to the side and see some of their favorite stars on the sidelines, potentially that, will send another message. So, I get that aspect, but then like I said, on the other side of it, it's just like you all just literally are pandering now to this nonsense, it's really hard to come up with a description that properly or accurately assesses the display that this administration has just put on, because it's abominable. I said the other day on my Facebook that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is making a mockery of our country and a mockery of our government, and he's only allowed to get away with it because he's a white man. And that is honestly the only reason why. He's a rich white man at that. He's not just a regular white man. He's a rich white man at that. And that's the only reason why. Because had it been a woman, a person of color, or an average means white guy, I don't think we'd be hearing, this. This would have been, a stop would have been put to this, so long ago. So it's hard, just seeing this and then knowing that this large entity at the NFL pretty much say, yeah, you are right in your nonsense, and we're going to now pass this rule that affects a huge portion of not only our players but our viewership, and say, we don't care, how you all feel. He's right. He's the president. Even though what he's saying is nonsense, we're going to stand here, or we're going to stand by him and, support it. And that's where, for me, it's just like, yeah, I went wrong again, and I likely won't be watching football again this season. So, yeah.
Yeah, I probably won't be watching it either. And I will say that he did make a statement that says if you choose to stay in the locker room, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there.
Yep.
And you maybe shouldn't be in the country. So the whole thing about staying in the locker room is kind of like, well, you're not supposed to be in this country if you're going to stay in the locker room. So you might as well just continue to stand for all the millions of people that, you know, have a cause that we want people to hear our voices about, you know, Black Lives Matter. We want people to hear it just like we deserve to live and not have these insensitive courts and different policies and governments that say, you know, you can go to jail for life. And then another person just gets, you know, mental illness. Like, none of this seems to matter from up top. So I can't expect anybody else to take it seriously if our president isn't. But, you know, I guess that's another subject for another day. I just wanted everybody to be aware that that's what's happening in our climate. And last but not least, I live in New Jersey, and I think this topic kind of hit a little home for me because I was just thinking about going to the beach. You know, it's Memorial Day weekend, want to just chill out in the sun. I get 3-day weekend, like everybody. We all got a 3-day weekend. And so when I woke up this morning, I was checking the news and stuff, and it seemed to me that a video went viral in New Jersey police and how basically a police officer just beat on this woman who was 20 years old, and he was seen punching her in the head during the arrest. And I don't even know why. I honestly cannot tell you why he did it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why there was such physical force being used. But again, I'm just like, you know, hey, this is happening to a white woman, you know. Maybe now people will care because it's been happening to us and didn't seem like anybody cared. So now maybe we'll start to care about how police treat people. But, Jarrell, I just wanted your thoughts on this. And, you know, the young woman was 20. She was drinking underage. But, gosh, you know, I just didn't think she deserved to be punched in her head in the way it was 2 men on her. Like, wow, you know. And it was in front of her child, from my understanding.
So my perspective on this is a little interesting, especially given the events of this past weekend. This past weekend and this past week, I'll say both. So I won't say any names just in terms of privacy for that individual, but I recently gave a recommendation for someone to become a police officer, a police officer. And this person isn't of color. So, you know, just dropping those context clues. And when I first did it, I didn't have a problem with it. I looked at it as like, you know, I don't have any ill will against this person. I can, you know, verify the information that they want me to verify and answer those questions. Because I think that's only proper. If you know that you didn't necessarily have, you know, a bad interaction with someone and can speak, you know, to who they are as a person in a positive manner, or potentially if it's negative and, you know, you don't think that should be the right thing, you know, do it without any ill will. But in this particular case, I didn't have any of that against them. So I went ahead and provided the recommendation for them. And afterwards, I had to think about, like, was I being hypocritical to an extent of, like, this whole, police injustice issue and, you know, the part that, you know, I would want to play in it. Was I being hypocritical to that because I'm recommending someone who's not of color for a job that I know could potentially put another black person's life in danger? And I had to reconcile that with myself, and ultimately I decided that I wasn't being hypocritical because, like I said, I felt as if, you know, this person, from what I've observed, and I can only speak from that perspective, has never shown any of those types of views to me, towards me, and even in the slightest manner. I've, you know, never had an inkling of that. So I was fine with the decision that I ultimately made to recommend this person. But what I will say is we do need to have an open conversation about police brutality in this country, because I've seen videos like that to where it's not a black person, where it is a white person. Most of the time I've seen where it's been white, it's been white police officers to other white men. But it's still an abuse of power at the end of the day. I mean, blacks and Hispanics are, more likely to be killed by a police officer in this country than someone else, as we've seen, in all of the videos that have been, published online, whether it was Alton Sterling, whether it was Philando Castro, where we have video, what was it, Walter Scott, where it's like video, and it's video from where, not necessarily where the actual interaction began, but where, there could potentially be some gray space on like what took place. We've seen the videos pretty much from beginning to the end, or where the situation went absolutely wrong to where this person was gunned down by a police officer. We've seen those videos where it's just been clear that there was no other reason for you to take that type of action besides the fact that you had a disdain against them simply because of the color of their skin or their, potential background. So we need to have an open conversation in this country about police brutality because, realistically, if that were a black person, we may be having a different conversation about, whether they just got beat up. We could be having a conversation about them being murdered, a conversation about, the family having to now grieve. I don't want to make it light of this woman who, was assaulted. I don't want to make light of that. Because, again, like I said, we do need to have a conversation about police brutality, but understand that this is what blacks and African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos are going through on a daily basis. I, as a black man that drives in New York City, I am pretty much always on guard when a police officer is driving behind me. I should not have to have that on guardedness. I'm never, so nervous to the point where I'm making, traffic violations and mistakes and stuff like that. But it's a simple fact that a NYPD car, pulls up behind me, and they could simply just be traveling down that same road to make a turn to go somewhere else. But the fact that they're behind me and I have some intimidation simply by it being there. Mind you, I've worked with the NYPD before. I've worked in two different capacities around police officers. And with, the police department, I know, some of the police officers and commanders and chiefs. I mentioned earlier in the scholarship, award that I got to be police commissioner for a day. So I've been in those environments. But even still, I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm a black man in America, and I know that, I could potentially be pulled over and the situation could potentially go awry because I'm a black man and I may not have been doing anything wrong or even anything more wrong or different than the white person next to me. And that situation can go bonkers. What I will say in terms of, how do you engage in those type of situations? What your plan of action should be. And it always goes back to that talk that black parents have. Jackson, I'm sure your parents have had that talk with you about, how you interact with the police if you're stopped by the police, how you should answer, how you should motion, how you should not motion. So I'm pretty sure you've had that talk. And it's sad that we can't have a mutual understanding, the police and the community, that if you're stopped by a police officer, you can get a little, I don't want to say angry, but you could be a little disturbed and not be taken as an absolute threat to them. If you're bothered by the fact that they are actually stopping you when you don't feel that you've been stopped, but at the same time having enough respect for them because they do have a job to do, that you are mindful of your reactions. just as a mutual respect to people just being people. But it's sad that we have to have this talk on, like, how you should engage like that, so that, like, you know, and it's not even engaging from a humanistic, you know, perspective, because real talk, when we're talking about engaging with the police, especially from the Black perspective, we're not talking about doing it from, you know, one human to another. We're talking about doing it from a human to or the subservient to the human. You know, that I'm now beneath you, so I must, you know, make sure that my hands are in one place, that I can't move. I shouldn't raise my voice. I realistically shouldn't answer back if I don't disagree with you. I should just, you know, pretty much go along with what you're saying, just to make sure that I live. So we're not even talking about, you know, having an interaction that's from a human to a human level. It's realistically not. We're not all on the same playing field when we're having this conversation about how you should interact with the police. And that's a problem, because at the end of the day, you are a human just like me, and I'm a human just like you. And there should just be some mutual respect between each party that says, you know what, I may not necessarily feel I did something wrong, but I'm going to allow you to say what you have to say. I may object. I'm going to allow you to do your job. At the same time, the police officer understands, hey, this person, you know, may have a different perspective. I still have to do my job, but I'm going to do that in a respectful manner that does not necessarily violate them and have them, you know, feeling subservient to me. So, yeah, we need to have a real conversation about police brutality in this country, what that looks like. We need more white people to stand up and take action, record things like, you know, what happened out in California where, you know, the lady felt it was necessary to call the police on people barbecuing. I mean, I get it. Like, you know, there are rules and, like, rules supposed to be followed, but, like, you also have to just be mindful of certain things. Like, you know, to what degree and level is something realistically bothering you? We live in a country where we talk about, you know, the pursuit of happiness, life, freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like, what that actually entails when you realistically look at it from a fundamental perspective is, yes, there might be rules and there might be regulations and laws that people have to follow, but if what someone else is doing isn't necessarily impending on my life, my liberty, my freedom, my pursuit of happiness, then let them go. Or, you know, figure out a different way of addressing the situation and how, you know, you are now in terms of feeling like it's necessary to call the police because two black men are sitting in the restaurant. You know, maybe you go and have a conversation with them about it and you approach them again from a human to human. You know, you see how this is going? Like, we got to get back to where we're looking at each other as human beings and not as, you know, I'm better than, or I'm more educated than, I've had more experiences than. We somehow gone awry. And I mean, I'm included in this. I'm a person. I interact with people daily, and I'm pretty sure there's moments where I, you know, am a perpetrator of the same behavior that I'm, you know, now talking against. But one thing I can say is I do try to be mindful as often as possible about how I am interacting, how I am engaging people. I'm always daily looking to try to just learn different perspectives on things. And like, for example, like, you know, how, you know, conversations around, you know, certain things with, you know, in popular culture and, you know, providing more access to people of the LGBT community, people of color. And, you know, as a person of color, I may not necessarily always agree with, you know, the direction that we're going in, but I'm always now still learning that, okay, that's someone's perspective, and that their perspective, has some validity to it because of potentially, you know, what they've been through. And I can't just necessarily dismiss what they've been through because I may not have been through it. So I'm just forever trying to learn and continuously look at people as humans and as people like myself. And what that means is I need to treat them with as much respect as possible and ask for the same thing back. And then we as a whole group of people have to start doing that. We have to.
I agree. And that concludes our hot topic section. And you may be asking yourself, what does this have to do with walking by faith?
A lot.
What does this have to do with it? And one thing that I'll bring up is we gotta have hope, y'all. Martin Luther King, he marched because he had hope that one day we all could be sitting at the same table, whites, blacks, Asians, Latinos, red people, brown, purple people, that we all could be in that same area, and we're now competing with each other in ways academically and in business and things. He had that dream, and what I'm saying is if we can continue to highlight these hot topics, it should inspire something in you, some gift that you have that God has given you so that you can become that need, you can become that success, you can become that answer that we have to these problems or these challenges that we are currently facing. So don't think that just because we're talking about worldly issues that it has nothing to do with faith in God. It has everything to do with Him, because what was a problem back then is not a problem now, but what is a problem now probably won't be a problem in the future, because we do have people that are listening to this podcast that will be inspired by this podcast to go out and make a difference, because you now have more information. That's what the Pretty Plug is trying to bring you, more information and more context so you can have a perspective and a reality to go out and change things. So, Jarrell, is there anything else that you want to tell the people? I always love having you on the show. People need to understand, the climate that we're in, so we're not ignorant. And we need to understand that we need to vote, period, point blank. And I'll let you, whatever you got to say, I'm going to let you close it out. Because I try not to give too much to the people, because after an hour, they may not can handle it.
Well, I'm going to close out hopefully with just adding something powerful to what you said about hope. And you started talking about Dr. King and talking about hope. And one of my, my most favorite speech of his isn't actually the I Have a Dream speech. It's the last speech he actually gave the night before he was assassinated. He was in Memphis, and he was giving a speech to the sanitation workers, and he ended with this. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people, we will get to the promised land. And he says, I'm so happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. I end with that to just say, he talked about having hope that we're going to get there. So just keep that faith that we're going to get there.
Heck yeah. We gonna get there. I believe we're gonna get there. And as long as we have information, we're gonna get there. And that concludes the...
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That concludes the 18th episode on the show. And y'all tune in next week.